والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم عليك بأعدائك يا رب العالمين. اللهم عليك بأعدائك يا رب العالمين. اللهم ألق الرعب في قلوبهم. اللهم زلزل الأرض من تحت أقدامهم. اللهم مزقهم كل ممزق. اللهم مزقهم كل ممزق. اللهم انصرنا عليهم يا رب العالمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Okay. Okay, do I start inshallah? Okay, bismillah. Okay, so last class inshallah, we talked about a basic introduction to what we're going to be doing, right? So, this class is today, if you were with us last time, we're going to talk about the place of articulation. In Arabic it's called makhraj, right? Actually, if you write it normally, makhraj. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today, inshallah. Okay, small review. What did we talk about last time? Okay, so we talked about what is tajweed in this general sense. I'm looking at the letter on its own, trying to understand it, study it, and figure it out. Then I'm going to look at the letter combined. Very simple, very easy, right? So it's the study of the letter in isolation. Obviously, this is not the actual definition. This is just what the working definition that we had in the beginning, just to understand the basic concept, and then we went to the actual definition at the end. But the basic idea is, I am a scholar of Tajweed. Khalas? What do I want to do? I want to preserve the Quran. How do I preserve the Quran? Preserve the way to say it. How do I preserve the way to say it? Preserve how to say the ayat. How do I preserve the ayat? The words. How do I preserve the words? The letters. If I know the letters, then I know how to combine a letter with another, then everything is good. صح كده? Okay. This is very important. So actually, this is going to be the part of the review where I'm going to stop a little bit because it's related to the discussion today. When the scholars want to study the letter on its own, how do I uniquely, scientifically identify and describe the letter? Identify and describe. Identify yani to describe it in a way that's unique to it. Right? So I can describe, but 2 letters, 3 letters can fit under that description. So I want to describe it in a way that fits only that letter. Khalas? How did they describe it? They used the place of articulation and they used the idea of property. Okay? What is the place of articulation? Place of articulation is the physical instruments I use to emit the sound. Right? So I have a sound to emit, and I have physical instruments. The movement, which physical instruments I use to emit the letter, that's the place of articulation. Example, ba. What is the physical instrument I use when I do ba? The lips. Ba. Right? What physical instruments do I use when I do qaf? Pa. What do I use? Okay, you're too good, but somebody else, because he didn't hear you. Somebody else. What do I use when I do qaf? La wallah. He's too good and you're not too good. Somebody else. Okay, just give it a shot. Not your throat, your tongue. Okay, tongue is part of it. So when you say qa, you actually use your tongue, and we call that the upper palate. We're going to talk about these descriptions today. I don't know today, but some of it today. But some of that physical instruments I use to emit the sound is the place of articulation. Khalas kya? Okay, what is the properties? So we talked last time about the dal and the tha, right? What did we say? We said, what is the dal? How do I say dal and how do I say tha? Right? It's actually the same spot. If I actually look at my tongue and I look at my central incisors, my teeth, I find that my place, if you do say the, and then say tha, the, tha. I find that I put the same place of articulation. Problem. I want to scientifically identify the letter. I want to tell him a way that when he knows, he understands what I'm saying, he will actually know how to emit the letter. So I have two letters that fit the same description in the place of articulation. Does that make sense for now? Yeah? What do I do? They added something, no, they described, because you don't add, you describe. They describe something called properties. Properties are the thing that is added to the letter, not added actually another mistake. What is some things that are part of the letter that not only describe the physical instruments, it's related to the physical instruments and actually could be boiled down to the physical instruments. But example, the example of the dal and tha. If you put your hand in the vocal cords like we did last time, if you remember, and say right? And then say f. What's the difference? Huh? The vibration. The vibration when you say dal that exists in your vocal cords, and the lack of vibration in the tha is the reason why there's a difference between the dal and the tha. How do I describe that? They describe it using something called the properties. They say a dal is a loud letter because of the vibration, and a tha is a hams letter. It's a whispering letter that emits a lot of air. We're going to talk about properties. But what I'm trying to say is that place of articulation does not uniquely identify the letter. Some letters have the same place of articulation, but the only way to differentiate is the properties. Does that make some type of sense? I'm doing it a little too quickly because we did that last class, right? But I'm trying to slow down as well for the people who weren't there. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. What is a letter? Sound. Sound. That comes from a place of articulation. And then we're going to talk about what the hell is that, but that we don't care about for now. So, what is a letter? Just a sound. Okay? That comes from a place of articulation. Not every sound. Like I'm saying, it's not a sound, right? It's not a sound that is used in language. It's used in English, but it's not used in Arabic. Does that make sense? Okay. This is what we did last class, the whole thing, right? We described properties. We talked about what is essential properties. We talked about what is non-essential properties. And we talked about most Tajweed people learn this part. Right? This was review last time. What is this part? Just for people who wasn't there. So, place of articulation is the physical instruments. Essential properties is the properties that are part of the letter. It's part of what it is. So, if I say dal without vibration, does the letter exist anymore? Now try to say dal with no vibration. The letter disappears. Some properties are part of the letter such that if the property goes away, the letter goes away. That is the essential property. What is the transient properties right there? These are tajweed. What is tajweed? Med. Do I have to make med to keep saying alif? Like the med 4 haraka, 6 haraka, the elongation. Ya ayyuhan. Do I have to say ya to say the alif? I can just say ya ayyuha. صح? I don't have to say ya ayyuha. When does the transient proper attribute happen? The transient attribute is not what the letter is. It's something that is added. It's something that happens to the letter. Right? So there's some things that if I don't do, the letter just goes away. There's the physical instruments, and there is what happens to the letter when it's added. When does this generally happen? When the letters are combined with each other. So this is letter on its own. I'm describing what the letter actually is. This is generally letter when combined. So another example of this. Noon. Noon. Us? Noon. How do I say the letter noon? I put my tongue in the, near the, inshallah, the gums. Okay? Noon. And so part of the place of articulation is the tip of the tongue with the gums of the central incisors. صح كده? That's the place of articulation. The place of articulation is the physical instruments, which is the tip of the tongue with the gums. Okay. We can talk about some of the essential properties later. Okay? What is some transit attribute? Well, we all know when we say min qabl. What do I say? When I recite the Quran, I say min qabl. Is that min part of what the letter actually is? Like the letter on its own? It's actually a transient attribute that is added to the letter because of the combination of a letter that is semi-close to it. That's one of the reasons why people say ikhfa exists. That's another point. So the transient attribute is what actually people, when they say I study Tajweed, they actually talk about this. إخفاء من قبل من كان يريد يا the مدود. When do you do 4 حركة? When do you do 6 حركة? When do you do... Actually, most people study the transit attributes. The smallest part, actually. This is what people identify Tajweed as. Tajweed is this whole thing. I'm reviewing the whole lesson that I did last time. So if it's confusing, I don't know if you can check the previous lesson, okay?
An example of non-changing but non-essential but changing.
Yeah, last time we said we're not going to talk about that one. So that one we're going to talk about when properties happen. So I can actually basically anything that's implied from this is this. Like it's not that, but it's implied from it. I have to explain it, I have to give you an example for it to make sense, right? But again, this is not the biggest thing in the world. Like if you finish that reading without understanding this fully, you can live life, right? You can be, okay? But the most important thing for me is place of articulation, properties. Properties are important to differentiate between letters. Some letters are just the same in the physical instruments. Again, another example that we talked about, the sin and the zay. It's the same place. Most people don't feel it. We talked about that too last time. If you put your tongue here and say S, S, do you feel any vibration? Try it. S. You don't feel anything. Now say as. You feel? So now do zay and remove the vibration. See? As. So because I removed an essential property, what happened? The letter disappeared. It's like magic. Like you keep saying the letter, something else happened, right? Because actually the letter stopped existing. You can say that. خلاص? And then we talked about the transit attribute. Does that make sense? So this is what people talk about when they say tajweed. Qalqala. Actually, qalqala, that's a bad example. Mad. Idgham. Ikhfa. These things, right? Noon sakina. When the noon, after the ra, mar rabbuk, do I say the gunnah? All of this is here. So the most important thing is these two, actually. And actually these two. Okay? This is very important too, no doubt, okay? All right, I'll try to finish quickly. The review. Okay, why is it not doing? Come on, help. Okay. This is the definition of tajweed of the scholar that we learned about, and he literally defined it. We literally defined it like him. I was going to say he literally defined the same way. I was like, what am I talking about? We defined it exactly like him, right? So, what is tajweed? Giving the letters its haqq. Haqq is its essential properties. From every property and mustahaq. Mustahaq is non-essential, the transient one. وَرَدُّ كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ بِأَصْلِهِ. The place of articulation. So again, the physical instrument, the essential properties, the non-essential properties. That's Tajweed. Again, that's how he defined it. The physical instruments, what am I doing? Bu, ba, the lips, the throat, the qa, the tongue, right? What am I doing? Place of articulation. The stuff that differentiates letters, essential attributes, and then the non-essential is the med, ikhfa, so on and so forth. Okay? That was a review that took the whole lesson. Let's talk. Let's start today with the lesson, inshallah. Okay. How many letters are in the Arabic language? It's a trick question before I start. But tell me the normal answer, and then tell me what do you think the trick is. Okay, let's start with the normal answer, because I don't think people know the normal answer. So how many letters are in the Arabic language? Give it a shot, عادي يعني. 24, 20. Huh? Close. Yeah?
28.
I don't know. 28, 27, 28. 26. That's English, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure. So the normal answer is 28. The not normal answer is, I guess 29. Okay. So, oh, why is this not changed? What is this? Okay, this should be different. Okay, I'll just change it here. Wow. La, yeah, okay? Anyway, wow, and then something weird, and then yeah, okay? All right, let's start. So, how many, this is the way some people order the alphabet, right? I'm just showing you for fun, right? No need to know any of this at all. I'm just showing you for fun. The Easterners, this is called Abjad order. Abjadiyya. This is Abjad order, and it's the Eastern one. If you want to research what the hell is that, why is it important, how people use it. And then you have a Western order, the Al-Maghariba, they use a different order, right? So actually, Abjad Hawaz Hutti Kalamun Sa'afat Qarashat Stakhadun Dadahun is actually the whole Arabic alphabet. The way we learned it is Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, Ha, Kha, that's the other one. This one is actually made by how letters are similarly written. How similarly written the letters are. Okay? Different scholars have ordered things differently, and I'm showing you the different ways people ordered it. Now, if you look at this one, it's 28. If you look at this one, it's 28. If you look at this one, it's 28, but I'm acting like it's 29. Khalas? What is the 29th letter? I have Hamza, and then Ba, Ta, Ta, Jim, Ha. What is the 29th letter? The 29th letter is Alif. Alif. Alif is the elongated part. Qala, like, that's Alif. So it's not Hamza, it's not it's the Alif. That's the 29th letter. Why is the 29th letter with a lam? Because what's funny about Alif is that you cannot have an Alif alone. Try to say Alif on its own. Say Alif without Hamza. Say Alif without the Hamza. Right? You have to start somewhere. Alif always comes with a fatha before. So Alif always comes with a fatha before it. To have an Alif, you have to have a fatha before the Alif. You cannot have an Alif without. That's why they put the lam here. Lam Alif, and they put the fatha on the lam. Does that make sense? يبقى أنت عندك lam Alif. La Alif is the 29th letter. Does that make sense? All right. These are different ways of ordering. There's there's a lot of explanations into this. I don't know what I'm talking about this. I'm just showing you there's different ways to order the Arabic language letters. Okay. What I know or what I've heard. So take this one with more laxity. That I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on this. This one is generally the pronounced. And this is generally the written. That's how I saw it, people talking about it. These are the written and these are the pronounced. What's the difference in one letter? Some people don't even put that letter here. It's confusing, I don't know. It's not important, just a tidbit right there, okay? Okay. Okay. You can do it. You can't do it. It's not doing it. Okay, it did it. I tapped. Okay. Now let's start, finally. Places of articulation. Again, what is a place of articulation? Is the physical instrument that I am emitting the sound from. That's what I'm doing. Khalas? Again, this is the system our scholars devised to do phonetics. That's our way of doing phonetics. Khalas? I will try my best, especially when we go properties, to make some references between the way we do it and the English way, but I suck at the English way. I don't even know what I'm talking about. So it's going to be completely amateurish when I do English, right? Completely amateur, like I don't know what I'm talking about. But I may do it just as a tidbit, don't take it too seriously. But this is the way our scholars devised phonetics in language. Is there a difference of opinions on this? Yes, there was. Yeah. We've taken one of the most, you can say, agreed upon ways of devising this. Most the difference of opinion, either one is worse than the other, or it's just small disagreements, okay? Okay, place of articulation. What is place of articulation again? The physical place I'm taking with that. Why am I doing the physical place to tell you where the letter is? Why? Because some people don't know Arabic. So when I tell them to do the letter, they're putting it a little back, a little front. What did we say last time? We said, the reason we're talking about the letter is that you take the description I give you, you do your own, and find a compromise. Actually, not a compromise. Go to it, right? Go to the way you actually say the letter. So, how do I actually know how am I saying it? We said that's last class. You put an alif before it, and then put the letter with a sukoon. Again, I'll explain myself clearer. How do I know what is my place of articulation? There is true place of articulation, the correct way of saying it, but I am a non-Arab, right? So I'm probably saying it wrong. So what is my place of articulation? My place of articulation, to figure it out, just put an alif before and put the letter in sukoon and say ab, ab, and where's your tongue stopping? Lips. Okay, let's do dal for example. Ad, 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 ad. And stop there and feel where's your tongue and feel where's your palate. That's your place of articulation. Now, think about it. It's like, okay, my place of articulation, does it fit the description? If yes, then alhamdulillah, we're done. So we said, make what's it called? Make a pattern between the sound of the letter, the place, and the description of the scholars. If you can make that mapping in your head between the sound, the description, and the place, we are good. When you hear a sound, you know where it is. Even if the person does it wrong, we talked about this last time. Some scholars, because of how good they are, they can figure out where the mistake is. I'll actually keep going quicker because I feel like I'm repeating my last class. So let's actually keep going. Okay, we have 5 general places of articulation and 17 specific places of articulation. What is the 5 general? General is something called jawf, and it's called the emptiness. Weird. Look at it later. Anything weird, just put it on the side. Who cares, right? Then you have the throat. Oh, anybody who make fun of Arabics, what do you say? Anybody who's non-Arab, how do Arabs speak? Why? Because we use our throat a lot, right? So you have the general makhraj is the throat. What is specific and what is general? We're going to talk about specific. But the throat is this whole thing. But there's specific places. Is it here? Is it the vocal cords? Is it a little ball on the top? That's when we go specific. General is the whole thing. It's the whole instrument. It's the whole big thing. The throat. Then you have the tongue. The tongue has 10 specific makharij. Tongue in the back, tongue in the front, tongue in the middle, tongue in the side, everything. So you have 10 specific makharij. Last 2 is the lips. The lips have 2 specific makharij, and the nose has one. So the general instrument is basically the whole instrument, the whole thing. The specific is the spots. Halas? Make sense? Okay, very good. I want to keep going quicker because I feel like I literally repeated my last class. Okay. We said there's something weird when we defined when we defined the letter. We said something weird. We said it's a sound that comes from a place of articulation. We said something called specific and approximate. What is that approximate thing? What is that approximate thing? Approximate. So jawf is the weirdest makhraj. Okay? Because it's actually nothing. Jawf is the emptiness of the throat and the mouth. So what is he trying to say? And by the way, this is where one of the difference of opinion. One of the scholars is saying, what is this? It does not exist. Right? For the mouth, I didn't go to the specifics, right? So I said, you have the throat, right? The lips, yeah, there's two, but I didn't go through the two, right? But basically, it's the lips and the lips with the teeth. Fat, but we're gonna talk about it. Okay? Okay. So emptiness. The sound comes from the emptiness, from the abyss. Okay? Okay. The Sheikh said it, so no, but it makes sense, right? But let's explain it. Some scholars said, what is this? Does not exist, right? Big scholar said, he said the makharij is 16 specific, not 17. So he removed that one. But anyway, emptiness in the mouth, emptiness in the throat. What comes out of those? Basically, what he's trying to say is that I'm more focused on the sound more than the makhraj. These letters are more focused on the movement of the sound more than the specific places of articulation. Very confusing. To be honest, no need, to be honest. But I'm just explaining it as much as I can, right? Okay. But after I explain the letters, then it gets easier. But anyway, okay. What are the letters that comes from the jawf? Something called med letters. We said med comes later in Tajweed, right? But the letters that actually have med comes here. What is a med letter? A med letter is an alif, or a ya, or a waw, or a ya. Okay? A, u, e, the harakas, right? The letter is sukoon before it's fatha. Then this is called alif maddiyah. So if an alif is sukoon and before it is fatha, this is an alif mad. If a ya is sukoon and before it is kasra, that is yeah, no, because they're all focused with you. Take your time. So, if the ya is sukoon and before it is kasra, it's ya maddiyah. If the waw is sukoon and before it is dhamma, it's waw maddiyah. Does that make sense? So, what does mad mean? Mad means elongation. Mad means elongation. Mad means elongation. So what happens if the alif is sukoon, if alif does not have any haraka, and before this fatha, what do we say? We say qala, qala, some elongation happened, right? If the ya is sukoon, and before this fatha, what do we say? We say qila, qila. We don't say yeah. When the ya is fatha, we just say yeah, you, ye, yeah, you, ye. But when it's sukoon and before it is kasra, what do we say? We say qila, qila. Some elongation happens here. Same thing with the waw. What do we say with waw is fatha? We say wa, wu, we, wa, wu, we. It's sukoon and before the dhamma, what do we say? Yaquluna, yaquluna. That's why it's called waw maddiyah. What does mad mean? Mad means elongation. So what does the letter comes, which letters comes from the jawf, alif maddiya, waw maddiya, and ya maddiya. Okay? Hazm. Look at this. Look at the waw. It has the lips right there. Look at the ya. It has the middle of the tongue moving right there. Alif, I understand. Alif, nothing happens. So we can talk it's the emptiness. I understand that one. But hazm, there's movement in the tongue. What is this? I don't know. Don't ask me these are hard questions. Why are you asking me? I don't know. That's why the scholar said, Habibi. Because in the ya, we actually say the ya comes from the middle of the tongue. When the ya comes, we actually say the ya comes from the middle of the tongue. Why don't you put this guy with that guy? The waw comes from the lips. When we go to the lips, waw comes from the lips. Okay? Why don't you put that guy with that guy? Okay, now I'll read to you exactly the explanation. And I'm reading it to you because I don't understand it. Okay? Okay. 1 second. The non-lengthening waw and ya. So sorry. Yes. So the med letters. So the med letters are ascribed to the emptiness because they are emitted with the least pressure of the voice. But the ones with fatha, kasra, dhamma, they're not part of emptiness. Why? Because the pressure of the voice with them is more. So the pressure of the voice is very low with the waw and ya maddiya here, and the pressure of the voice when it's fatha, kasra, dhamma somehow is more there. So this one is less pressure. That one is more pressure. So less pressure means less dependence on the makhraj, less dependence on the place of articulation. There's less dependence on it, right? There's more dependence on the flow. There is more dependence on the makhraj because there's more pressure. That's the explanation. Does that make sense to me? No. But again, the fact that it doesn't make sense to me does not mean anything. That's what the scholars have said, and it's a very strong position, right? The fact that I'm making jokes, ignore that, right? That's the position, okay? But does that make sense to some extent? Okay. The jawf is the hardest one always with me when I start. But exactly, that's what he's trying to say. But again, you still have to do the place of articulation to emit it. Like you still have to, still have to do ooh, you still have to do the lips. You still have to do the middle of the tongue. Do you see what I'm saying? So you still have to do it to emit the letter. Do you see what I'm saying? The alif makes sense. Alif, you're not doing anything. You're just letting the sound flow. So you can say alif, but the waw and the ya, okay? I'll read it one more time, just to give it the respect it deserves, because it's the opinion of scholars. Basically, they said, the med letters were ascribed to the whole vocal passage because they are emitted with the least pressure of the voice. Okay? So obviously with the alif, is the tongue and everything is in the rest. So alif makes sense. And the non-lengthening, so when waw and ya becomes fatha, kasra, dhamma, they're ascribed to the place of articulation, the one we're going to learn later, because the pressure of the voice with them is more than in the maddi. Okay? That's this explanation. Always jawf with me is the hardest one to explain. So let's go from it so I can start explaining. So we finished the alif, waw, ya, maddiya. Waw and ya, maddiya are not independent letters, right? They're part of the waw, right? But alif, what do you say with alif? Alif only exists maddiya. Why? Why? It has to start somewhere. We said, try to do an alif without fatha before it. Try to do alif without fatha before it. Yalla. You cannot, right? You have to start somewhere. So you say la, ba, fa. You have to have a fatha before it. So alif only exists elongated. Right? The definitions of elongation we talked about. Right? The definitions of elongation. Alif before it fatha. Right? Alif before it fatha. Ya before الكسرة. Waw before الضمة. Okay? We're good? Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah, so Fatha is the daughter of Alif. So yes, you're saying, okay, if Fatha is the daughter of Alif, how can I do Fatha before the Alif? And you cannot do Alif on its own. You don't do Fatha on its own. You do Fatha with a letter. See, what did we say when we said to do Fatha? When we said to do harakat, what do? You emit the makhraj of the letter, then you do the Fatha. So you say, actually not then, with. Qa. You don't say Fatha, you say Qa, right? So it exists with a letter. So that's why. Does that make sense? Okay. Anybody having questions anytime? Yeah? So just a quick review before we continue. What did we say today? I yapped a lot today, right? What did I say today? I said very simple things. I said there's something called a letter. This letter is a sound. This sound comes from a place in your mouth. And there's something called properties. You don't understand properties, figure it out later. I leave it on the side. Who cares? So I have something called a letter. The letter is a sound. Ba, bu, fa, qa, sound. Comes from a hitting of the physical instruments, right? And what I'm doing right now is explaining where the physical instruments are. That's it. I'm grabbing every letter. Okay, alif, go here. Ba, go here. Qaf, go here. Okay? That's it. That's all I did today. Nothing else. Nothing else. Every other yapping thing, ignore. Who cares? That's all I did. Us? Okay. Throat. 3 specific makhraj. So throat is where we actually start to understand physical instruments. So jawf is an approximate. Okay. Yes. We said the makhraj. Jawf is an approximate makhraj, not a specific makhraj. Why? Because of the weirdness of it. Right? Specific is an actual physical thing. Approximate is the emptiness. So that's why they made that separation. Again, more academic separation. It doesn't have a lot of usefulness in terms of practice. It does, but anyway. 3 specific makharij. We said we have a general makhraj, the whole instrument. Then you have the specific. What is the specific? Furthest point, middle point, closest point. That's how they explain, okay? So it's the furthest part from the, furthest part, middle part, closest part, right? But what are they actually? The furthest part is the actual vocal cords themselves. The actual vocal cords. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. But this is literally the vocal cords themselves. So the smallest part is the vocal cords themselves. The middle is the epiglottis. We're gonna do it. And then you have the root of the tongue. So actually, the root of the tongue is part of the throat. Weird. But it's not, we didn't start the tongue, so maybe that's why they put it with the throat. But it's actually part, and we're gonna see it, okay? Let's start. Hamza and Ha. Hamza is one of the letters that makes you feel the vocal cords, right? Say sama and close. Sama. Sama. And try to make any sound, but keep close. Sama. Right? Why? Because that's the vocal cord itself. Look here, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the thing closing. Right? Okay. So what happens when you say Hamza? Hamza, you close the makhraj, right? The vocal cords and closes. So no sound comes out. What happens when you say Hamza with a fatha? What did we say with fatha last class? Does anyone remember? How do I do a fatha? Okay, how do I do a fatha? How do I do a fatha is I leave the makhraj and then with it I do the makhraj of alif or makhraj of waw or makhraj of ya, right? So what do? I actually open the makhraj. Because I leave the makhraj of hamza, which is the vocal cords, it opens, and then I do the makhraj of alif, which is the emptiness. So I let the air flow. Okay? Or ya, the middle of the tongue, e. Or the clearest one with the lips, which is the makhraj of waw, oo. So I leave the makhraj, so I open the vocal cords, and then I do the makhraj of oo, waw. Does that make sense? Make sense? Very good. Very good. The ha is also the vocal cords, but there's a lot of air that comes with the ha. Ha, ha, hoo, he. Right? So, now, so the ha, if you open it too quickly, it's like you're coughing. Say, right? So if you open the vocal cords too quickly, you get, so say, ha, ha, ha. Okay? Does that make sense? So basically it's the makhraj of the vocal cords, okay? So people now, let's actually do practical something practical. Hazm, I don't know how to say ha. Every time I say ha, it comes out as ha. Very famous problem. You know, people say ha, ha. And if you want to say the ha, ha, what actually happens? What happens is what comes out next. What comes out next is the ha. The ha is that epiglottis thing. Look how moved back it is. Right? It moves a little bit back. In the normal case, it's here. Right? It's in the back. Ha, you actually put it back. So what do people do? Because their muscles are weak, to open their vocal cords, they also have to move their epiglottis. You know when you try to move this finger, and then you move that one because your finger, or like, I don't know, you know, these things, you know. So you move one finger and the other finger moves with you. Why? Because you don't have enough nerves, or I don't know what it is, muscles or whatever it is. You don't have enough control. So people, because they have a lot of weakness in their throat and a lot of lack of control of their throat, what happens? They want to open their vocal cords and say ha, but what do? They also move the epiglottis to say ha. So that's why you get both. You get the ha and the ha. Why? They're moving their they're moving that thing, they're moving the epiglottis, and they're opening the vocal cords. So how do I fix? No, you don't fix. No, how do you fix? You strengthen the epiglottis. Just say ah. What's funny is, if you want to say ha, you actually strengthen also the ha. Why? To have control over it. So when I say ha, you can actually now, also you should strengthen also your vocal cords. Right? So you practice the muscles. Some people, their muscles are so weak and the nerves are like confused. I don't know, again, biologically how it works, but the nerves and whatever is so confused that they cannot do it one without the other. What do we do when these things happen? You practice this muscle. So you keep doing like this. And you keep trying to keep everything else intact. You keep trying. That's how we do it. Okay? So if you're doing the hamza with the ha, that's what you should do. Does that make sense? So again, a lot of muscle work and a lot of, you know? Okay. Now, which one is lower than the other, the ayn or the ha? So let's try. Figure it out. Just say ah, 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 and try to feel it. We said you put a hamza before and you put the ayn after with the sukoon, right? Say ah, ah, ah. Okay, that's 3 times. Okay, let's do ha. Ah, ah, and push it back in you to feel it, right? Ah, ah, ah. Okay. Which one is on the top? Which one is higher than the other? So whoever says ayn is higher, higher means, just to make it clear, higher, this is ayn, this is lower. Obviously this is epiglottis, so this is not correct, but I'm saying above and not below. Which one is above? Who says ayn is above? 1, Put it back up, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6. Who says ha is above? Okay. Who didn't do anything? Okay. You can't tell. Ayn is a little lower. Right? Right? So ayn is a little lower. Ha is a little higher. One difference between the ayn and the ha. One difference between the ayn and the ha is the ha you actually go through it. Somehow the ayn, you don't feel something weird. We're going to talk about that one day in the properties, right? So the ayn is a little different, okay? So, what did we say? Yeah, so the ayn, one important thing with the ayn is that the ayn, I'm actually not fully sure, but put that with an asterisk. You close the makhraj with an asterisk, because I don't know if I think you go fully. So how do you say يعملون 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 يع and you go there يعملون, right? So a أعو عي some people say right? No, you give it, that's still in the realm of ayn, by the way. That's still in the realm. So it's not like I will not, if you're praying, I would not say prayer invalid, you're not doing the ayn proper. No, it's still ayn, but it's not the way to do it, right? It's okay? Okay, and the ha, as we explained, okay? Any questions with these two, inshallah? So is the epiglottis, is that thing, is that muscle, and you just go back. Both of them you go back. The ha does not close the makhraj, the ayn, inshallah, with an asterisk, close the makhraj. Okay? Very good. So the practicality of it is how I differentiate between the ha and the ha. That's how we do it. Okay? I don't know how to say ayn in general. Yeah, you practice. you have no choice. And the way to practice is to get it at least once. Get it once and feel it and just keep doing it. You find your muscles are getting stronger and your capacity and your capacity is getting stronger to how to do it, okay? Okay. Last one, and this is the weird one. Because this is the throat, and somehow we're going in the region of the tongue, and we're there, okay? So, the ghayn and the kha. Actually, when you do it, even if you do the ghayn and the kha, you actually feel like you're going way up, like there's a jump. Say, actually, I think I'm doing it wrong, but anyway. And then go gha. You start feeling your tongue now. You start feeling stuff there, like, right? Gha. And then you go kha. You're like, whoa, I'm literally right there. Like kha is literally right there, and it's really close. Which one is above, the ghayn or the kha? I kind of unfortunately said it, but which one is above, ghayn or kha? Whoever says ghayn. Ghayn is above the kha. 1, 2. Nobody else? 1, 2, 3. If I keep pushing, people are gonna, just slack off, Okay. So ghayn is above the kha. Who says kha is above the ghayn? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. So obviously the kha is by democracy, right? Like it's not. the kha is above the ghayn. It's the root of the tongue, not the tongue. We didn't start the tongue yet. And I unfortunately don't have a picture, but when you look at how the root of the tongue looks, it's very different than the tongue, it's a root, right? It's the root of the tongue with the soft upper palate. So you have the palate, and inshallah next class, before every single type of makharij, I'm gonna show you like the anatomy of the makhraj. The tongue is next class, so I didn't show you the anatomy of the tongue. But low-key, I should have started the anatomy of the tongue now. But inshallah, you're going to see the tongue, and you're going to see the root, and the rest of it. And you're going to see the upper palate. But the idea is, from the picture here, this is the root, this is not the actual tongue, this is the root. And this is the soft palate, this is the hard palate. This is where the ridge is, the stuff here, right? I think this is this area, right? So the hard palate, the soft palate, this is the root of the tongue, right? So say gha, Gha. Okay, Hazim, I don't know how to do ghain. Well, again, it's a muscle. You don't feel your root of the tongue. You don't know how to control the root of your tongue. Right? So you say gha, gha, and you keep playing with it until your muscle gets strong. It's all about muscle. That's it. That's literally it. Right? So keep working on it. Just get it once. And just go gha, 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 and just keep doing that, right? Kha, kha, kha. Scholars, I think, this is a tidbit, do not take it seriously. Scholars, I think, when they talk about, you're fasting and you want to make wudu, right? You kind of push it back, right? They say the maximum you push it back is at the makhraj of the kha. Right? This is that, again, do not take it seriously. That's what I heard, right? That's what I saw, learned. Is that the way they stop, okay, how do I say, because you don't want to drink in Ramadan, right? And you want to push it back as well to make proper wudu. So what do? They say stop at the makhraj of the kha. So say kha, and that's where the mouth stops.
Fiqh of Tajweed.
Fiqh of Tajweed. Okay? So actually see how interplay happens, right? Between sciences. So obviously when you learn about, okay, what is the minimum level of Tajweed that I need to know to pray? That's also, you start learning about Tajweed. Oh, lahn al-jali, if you do lahn jali, like mistakes that are big, and Tajweed defines what big mistakes, what small mistakes are, and so on and so forth. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Again, what did I do today? I did nothing. I did what a letter is. A letter is a sound. You use something physical. That's it. A letter is a sound, and you use something physical. What is that something physical? The emptiness. The emptiness of the throat and the mouth. I didn't understand that. You shouldn't. What is the next thing we talked about? What is the physical instrument, the other physical instrument we talked about? We talked about the throat. The throat, the bane of existence of every non-Arab. The throat, right? What do? I don't know how to do the throat. Well, that's the point. That's why I'm telling you this. What I'm telling you this is to know the description. You're never going to do the description, but you can come close to it, right? Inshallah. So, figure out the description. Figure out how you do it by putting an alif and do the letter, right? And then come closer over time, right? We talked about the hamza, and we talked about alif madiyya, waw madiyya, ya madiyya, and we talked about the emptiness. That's where it goes from. And we talked about some scholars disagree. And then we talked about the hamza and the ha comes from the vocal cords. Some people, because of the weakness of their tongue, they move other things as well. That happens, by the way, this doesn't happen only in the throat. This happens with the tongue. Some people say, okay, we gotta go for the muscle. So hamza and ha, do not use more than one muscle. And assalamu alaikum.